course, this is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerated. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here. Welcome to the show. We got a great show for you guys on this Tuesday afternoon. We've, of course, got Donald Trump hyping up the hydroxychloroquine drug. And a lot of people are saying, many people are saying that that's a stupid idea. We'll talk about it, break it down. Then we've got, of course, the Trump administration pulling a pretty dirty trick on some of the National Guard. So these are the people, of course, that are right now doing a lot to help the states fight coronavirus. So how does the administration screw them over? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. Then we have a damning story on Georgia, the so-called Georgia miracle, that nobody's calling it except for me, about coronavirus cases and the whole reason that the purported reason that they decided to open up the state. It turns out those numbers may be fake. Yep, fake. So fun times. We've got more stories, of course. We got hazard pay that is ending for many essential workers. And then we've got Wisconsin electoral effery. I used to swear a lot more in the show. I can't really do that anymore because we take a huge financial hit every time we even swear. So, like, demonetization. I wish I could just go off and say a bunch of swear words, but I can't. That's why I need you guys so I can swear again. No. We need your support. It's patreon.com/TYTNation. That's how you can support us. We are getting crushed. Demonetization, along with, of course, blacklisting, deprioritization, boosting up authoritative channels as opposed to independent media, which is insane because Fox News is considered an authoritative channel and they put out incredible amounts of fake news, like literally making up stories. And so, no, they're authoritative because they've got money, but we don't have any money. We're not that big, so we're not authoritative, and we're getting crushed because of it. So if you can support us, I know it's difficult during this time, but we are still trying to do a patron drive, patreon.com/TYTNation. We're at 387 patrons at this point in time. I'd like to get to 400 by the end of the month. I know we've been trying that since last month, and we're still not really getting anywhere. And so we need your help. There have been people that have joined, of course, and, I appreciate them. And, it's amazing to see that, some of you have signed up to help us out. Thank you to those people. but we need more. We need a lot more to be able to have the type of freedom that we had before. And so, all right. And to make sure the channel can survive without, having to rely on YouTube and their ads and all that. So, all right. Anyway, that said, let's go to the first story here. So it's Donald Trump, of course, and his admission that he is taking hydroxychloroquine. So we'll start out with that story.
And a lot of good things have come out about the hydroxy. A lot of good things have come out. And you'd be surprised at how many people are taking it, especially the frontline workers, before you catch it. The frontline workers, many are taking it. I happen to be taking it.
Hydroxychloroquine?
I'm taking it, hydroxychloroquine.
When?
Right now, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I started taking it. Because I think it's good. I've heard a lot of good stories. And if it's not good, I'll tell you right. I'm not going to get hurt by it. It's been around for 40 years for malaria, for lupus, for other things. I take it.
That was, of course, President Donald Trump claiming to reporters that he is taking the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine. So, look, that's what he says in front of the reporters. I don't believe him. Let's just say that. I do not believe him. I don't think he is actually taking hydroxychloroquine. So that's, look, if you believe that he is, that's fine. But Trump is a pathological liar. No, I don't believe a damn thing that he says, right? I don't believe it. Because look, it is a dangerous drug and it has been shown to not be effective in treating COVID-19. Now, Trump he's a stupid man, but I don't think he's stupid enough to put himself at risk. There's no way. And as some of you are pointing out, that it's insane to think that he would be taking it for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, right? And not said anything about it. Inconceivable. There's no way. He's just like, oh yeah, I've been taking it for 1.5 weeks, but 2 weeks now, and I didn't say anything about it. No, complete and utter BS. There's no way that he is not lying about something in that. No way. So now, people who took it, by the way, and this is why this is dangerous, right? People who took it in clinical trials often developed severe heart problems or had died after taking the drug. And it's had no positive effect on people who have COVID-19. It won't prevent COVID-19 and it won't treat COVID-19. It is effective when treating malaria and lupus. That is what it's supposed to do. And by the way, with Trump going and saying you should take it, that's my advice if you want to. It's not going to hurt anything. Well, people are going out there and they're buying it and they're depriving lupus patients of this drug, which they can take safely. So, I mean, again, ridiculous. Also ridiculous is the fact that he's saying, I got medical professionals, they're on the front lines, they're taking it. No, they're not. There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence at all. Now, following this endorsement, and that's what it is. It is a continued endorsement of a product by a president of the United States. That's what it is. Numerous medical professionals, the actual professionals came out and said, no, this is both reckless and dangerous, and you should not be listening to the president of the United States. In fact, this is Dr. Rob Davidson. He's an emergency care physician and executive director of the Committee to Protect Medicare. He said this, quote, if everything else we know about President Trump hasn't proven to you that he does not understand medicine or healthcare, and believe me, there's a lot of evidence that he doesn't understand either. He says, and certainly doesn't have your best interests at heart. This statement and the fact that he's taking this drug should be everything you need to know. Now, Davidson continued by saying the FDA recently issued a warning that this should not be used outside of hospital settings because of the risk of death. We know that patients with lupus depend on hydroxychloroquine, and when President Trump was touting it in March, they ran into shortages. We in the healthcare field need to come out in one voice against the use of this drug and against the advice of this president, knowing that he is going to put more people in harm's way. That's an actual physician, not Dr. Trump, who's about as qualified to hand out medication as Dr. Mario. All right. No medical license, no degree, no knowledge whatsoever. Now, what shouldn't be a surprise is how surprised Trump's aides were. Again, you're going to tell me that he was taking this drug and didn't tell anybody? Donald Trump? Are you kidding me? No. So now the White House, they're like, oh my God, we need to release this memo, right? Now this memo is from the president's physician, Dr. Sean Conley. Sean Conley sounds a lot like Sean Connery. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just saying. They're just making people up. No, I think he's a real person, the president's physician, right? And he wrote that, quote, after numerous discussions he and I had regarding the evidence for and against the use of hydroxychloroquine, we concluded the potential benefit from treatment outweighed the relative risks. The memo, dated May 18th, does not explicitly say that Trump is taking hydroxychloroquine. So, no, I got to ask, is this the same guy who faked the doctor's note? Who just randomly wrote a doctor's note? It was like, oh yeah, Trump's 100% healthy. Tremendously healthy. Not just normally healthy, but like the greatest, the best health, right? He's in the best health. I think it's a note that Trump himself had wrote. So, look, I'm skeptical, right? Obviously. I'm skeptical of anything that comes out of this White House because Trump's a pathological liar. And so, again, I'm skeptical that he's taking hydroxychloroquine. I'm skeptical that his doctor said, oh, no, it's safe. And we both agreed. No, he's the kind of guy that's going to browbeat somebody. Trump is. And so I'm pretty sure his doctor's like, whatever, I'll just write whatever you tell me. At this point, and why wouldn't I? That's the whole reason I am your personal physician. That's the whole reason, because I will write whatever you tell me to write. Oh, you want to tell me, you want me to say that your health is tremendous? Tremendous. Great. I'll write that down. Oh, you want me to say hydroxychloroquine is good for you? Great. I'll write it. I mean, you don't get to be Donald Trump's personal physician if you don't do what Donald Trump wants you to do. I'm just saying. So now, the other part of Trump pushing this is that there's got to be a financial gain. Other than, of course, the fact that Trump likes being right. Because he does. He likes being right about everything. But the other part of this is that there's got to be a financial gain, right? What's more important to Trump than money? Other than his, of course, vanity, right? I mean, it's not just about the fact that some of his buddies do have investments in the company that manufactures hydroxychloroquine, right? And that even he has a small stake in a company that manufactures hydroxychloroquine, right? But what is that financial? Like, what is the other financial incentive? It can't be that very small stake in that company. It's got to be something bigger, right? And so, look, when it comes to Trump, follow the money, right? Whenever it comes to Trump or anybody in office, follow the money. And right now, I don't know the incentive. I don't know the big incentive he has to keep pushing this drug. Now, the result, of course, of this drug being pushed by the White House is the fact that there are people that will see this and think, oh, it's completely safe. The president said that it's safe. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to take this. And that has even Fox News, or at least one host on Fox News. By the way, Fox News is kind of mixed on this because you've got Laura Ingraham, that one of the biggest pushers of hydroxychloroquine. But then you have people that are somewhat responsible, like Neil Cavuto, saying this.
The VA study to which the president alluded wasn't a loaded political one. It was a test on patients there and those who took it in a vulnerable population, including those with respiratory or other conditions, they died. I want to stress again, they died. If you are in a risky population here and you are taking this as a preventative treatment to ward off the virus, or in a worst case scenario, you are dealing with the virus, and you are in this vulnerable population, it will kill you. I cannot stress enough. This will kill you.
Dude ain't mincing words. This will get, and again, this is somebody who, yes, disagrees with the president. And I understand that, right? But if you like the president, if you support him, then you should be concerned. Like, hey, I want this president to be around for 4 more years, right? Trump 2024, right? MAGA guys, if you're worried about Trump, then this is not a good thing for him to be actually taking hydroxychloroquine, which again, that's if you even believe that he is, and I don't, right? I don't think he's that stupid. But look, the reason, of course, that it would be dangerous, that you should be worried if he actually is taking it, right, is that Trump's in his 70s. He's technically overweight. Hey, look, I'm kind of overweight myself, right? And he doesn't exercise. He thinks exercise drains your life battery. These are words that he has said before. And he knows words, the best words. And he said this before. No, if you exercise, it will drain your life battery. You'll die faster. That's why I don't exercise. He eats lots of fast food, right? This isn't the fat shame or anything. Again, I'm fat, right? But he is at risk. This medication can cause heart issues. And that's it. I mean, that's, again, why he's probably not taking it. But the danger here is him getting other people to take it as well. I'd understand if there was actually provable medical benefits to this other than people with lupus or malaria to justify the risk, but there isn't any. There's just none. And that's what's maddening. I feel like this is another case of putting our lives in danger, or his life, or mainly the lives of his supporters in danger, to own the libs. And that's really what it seems to be. Like, it's a big middle finger to science, medicine, and facts. Now, me, I couldn't personally imagine making a decision based on that. LOL, want to own the conservatives. No, it feels like most of what liberals and progressives are trying to do is to save conservative lives. Like, hey, don't do that stupid thing. Where conservatives, their reaction is, F you, I will now do the stupid thing. I mean, it feels like we have to be their parents. We've got to be the grown-ups in the room to stop conservatives from doing stupid things. Honestly, that's what it feels like. It's amazing. But unfortunately, that seems to be the hardcore Trump supporters for you. And for them, Trump can do no wrong. He's the anointed one. He's literally their Jim Jones. And guess what? They're drinking the Kool-Aid. They're drinking the Kool-Aid. Frustrating as hell. In an incredibly cynical move, the Trump administration is going to start denying benefits to the National Guard by pulling them out of states dealing with coronavirus early. So now this is according to a report from Politico. Members of the National Guard are being recalled one day before many become eligible for extra benefits from the federal government. Again, these are National Guard members. And thanks to coronavirus, right, they were promised extra benefit for their service if they served 90 days. Well, they're getting pulled at 89 days. Now, the report states that the guardsmen faced what is called a hard stop, just 1 day shy of many members becoming eligible for key federal benefits. This is according to senior FEMA officials. Now, in a May 12th call obtained by Politico, the official also acknowledged during the call that the June 24th deadline means that the nearly 40,000 members who first deployed in late March will find themselves with only 89 days of duty credit, one short of the 90-day threshold for qualifying for early retirement and education benefits under the post 9/11 GI Bill. Oops. Look, is this an accident? I don't know. So now, in order to try to avoid a disastrous PR disaster, the official did say that they needed a, quote, delicate messaging strategy. Oh, no kidding. A delicate messaging strategy. Now, they said we would greatly benefit from a unified messaging regarding the conclusion of their services prior to hitting the 90-day mark and the retirement benefit implications associated with it. So here's how that would go. Over like a lead balloon. It would be just disastrous. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Now, it is possible that Trump could extend the deployments. Now, according to a National Guard spokesperson, quote, we're not there yet in the determination. Nobody can say where we'll need to be more than a month down the road. Well, here's the thing. I don't see coronavirus ending by June. Considering the lack of social distancing and the refusal of very many to wear masks, I see a second wave. And a second wave is generally bigger than the first and more deadly than the first. That is, of course, unless we take bold action, hunker down till we get a vaccine. And there's potentially good news on the vaccine front that I'm not going to get into with any sort of detail. But Moderna has had some clinical trials, and there's some promising results. But we can't promise anything on that yet because it still has more clinical trials and results to go through. So the point is, we're still going to have this issue. It's not going away. We need those workers in place to help the states. In fact, the report notes that tens of thousands of these workers have been working full-time since early March on a wide range of sensitive and dangerous tasks, such as decontaminating nursing homes, setting up field hospitals, along with performing tests of the virus, or for the virus. They provided a crucial backup for understaffed and underfunded state public health agencies trying to contain the pandemic. Now, it costs about nearly $9 million a month for every 1,000 troops. So there's 40,000 troops. You do the math, right? So, look, we're going to see cases. We're already seeing cases in deaths mount. Yes, they're continuing. You now have over 90,000 people that have died from COVID-19, and the numbers they're going up, especially in states that have opened up sooner, right? So now these workers will be needed. Now, is this a coincidence? Of course not. It's not an accident. No, 1 day short, 1 day short. No, what this is like hiring temps for 90 days, right? And then firing them the day before they're supposed to get hired in. I've seen that plenty of times when I worked in manufacturing. And the reason they do is because employees get better pay and benefits when they're employees and not temps. Now, in this case, again, the guardsmen would get extra benefits. So it's not hard to figure this out. I mean, you know it. Now, the National Guard Association points this out. And they believe the Trump administration timed its orders to limit the deployment to 89 days in full awareness that the additional benefits would be denied. Noting the date of the recall, retired Brigadier General J. Roy Robinson, who was the president of the National Guard Association, said this: "It seemed kind of weird to me. It's a Wednesday, and it also coincides with 89 days of deployment for any soldiers who went on federal status at the beginning. I was getting all kinds of calls about it, and I said it's probably just a coincidence, but in the back of my mind, I know better. They're screwing the National Guard members out of the status They should have. What? No. Donald Trump screw someone else over? No. You're kidding me, right? Especially members of the National Guard. No, he'd never screw over an employee. Would he? No. Oh, wait. Of course he would. We all know the answer to that. Yes, Donald Trump would screw over anybody. We know that. And look, there's a reason they don't want people getting those extra benefits. Why? Because it doesn't help their donors. Retirement benefits? No, Republicans really don't want people to have those, as well as help with their education, right? No, they don't want that at all. They don't want that at all. And that's what it's about, of course. They don't want any extra dollars going to regular people because that's already earmarked to go to the rich. That's where they want all that money to go. And we've seen that this entire coronavirus situation has been used by the government to basically initiate a gigantic transfer of wealth from the poor and middle class to the wealthy, to the corporations. And imagine being okay with using the human suffering that has been caused by this virus to facilitate that heist. What kind of person are you? Well, you're a sociopath, and that's who Donald Trump is. And unfortunately, that's who many in his administration are as well. And so that's what it's about. Trump doesn't care about the troops. He doesn't care about the National Guard. Doesn't care about people dying from coronavirus. All he cares about is himself. And that's it. All right. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got story about Georgia and how they might be fudging the numbers. So we'll come back with that story. We got plenty more. I'm going to thank some patrons and some read a super chat if I have any, and also thank some channel members. So stay right here, Round the Nation. We'll be right back in a minute.
Mike Pounds.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TWT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right, so we've got a super chat here, a couple here. Thank you, Richado. Mark Davis says the government's been pulling benefit timeframe loopholes on active reserve troops for decades. It's not new and it's common personal experience. Well, that sucks. Let's just say that. I mean, you can't actually say that you care about and support the troops when you clearly don't. But look, we've seen that, right? From politicians, mostly from Republicans, who are the ones that are most likely to say support the troops when they really don't, because all they use them for is photo ops. I mean, the E1 gets paid terribly. There's a gigantic need for food stamps and on-base commissaries, and yet, of course, they continue to cut food stamps even for active service members. And so, yeah, I mean, we send people off to war, and we don't take care of them when they come back, often with physical or mental issues afterwards. So this whole fake patriotism thing is just more frustrating than anything I've ever. Anything. And yes, I do have family members that have served, and so this is something that I do care about quite a bit. But anyway, so thank you for those super chats. Let's go to thanking a couple of patrons here. So I want to give a shout out to Vic Semanayak and Jim Dow. So thank you to those patrons, patreon.com/TWTNation, so you can support us. 387 patrons. We want to get to 400 by the end of the month. So sign up, please support independent progressive media. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month just to keep our support. And look, you get the podcast. You get the podcast before anybody else. Might have some exciting news on that front. I'm working on getting a couple of people from the Young Turks main show. Well, not the main show, sorry, but a couple of people from the Young Turks on the show. So look, that's you guys. You help make that show possible by, of course, becoming and supporting, becoming a patron and supporting the show. Also, channel members. Lots of love for channel members as well. So I want to thank Valerie Craig and Zach Sherman. You can become a channel member, of course, by hitting the join button below. You also help support the show and make all this stuff that we do possible. So thank you. All right. Moving on. Let's see some likes as well, if we could. Now, despite numerous medical experts advising state governments and governors to continue their stay-at-home orders, we have numerous governors that have decided to open back up. Now, one of them, of course, is Georgia. We've got Florida. We got South Carolina. We have many other places that are considering opening up despite rising cases of coronavirus. Now, a lot of these governors have been citing their own models, which they claim are more accurate than the models used by the CDC that, to make their recommendations. So now they say, no, those models are wrong, the CDC. Our state models are right. It's safe. Go back to business. This whole coronavirus thing, no, it's over. It's overblown. This is like the flu. Not serious. It's Democrat scaremongering in order to take down Donald Trump and the economy so that he loses re-election. That's it. Everybody get your butts back out there. And look, if you look at the data coming out of Georgia over the past month, for example, which did have the earliest and most aggressive efforts to reopen their economy, thanks to Brian Kemp. Well, if you look at the data they're putting out, then you might be convinced there's little danger. And yeah, hey, look, Brian Kemp says it's safe. And this information that Kemp is releasing, it says we're safe. So great. Get it back out there. Now, the problem, of course, that's not true. None of it's true. Now, according to the state models, which Brian Kemp used to justify Georgia's aggressive reopening, they say that they've flattened the curve, but they actually haven't. Now, the thing about that is, here you've got Kemp putting out these flawed models. I'll explain how later on, but the result of that is you got Kemp saying it's safe. You got conservative pundits saying safe. For example, the Wall Street Journal recently hailed what they call the Georgia model, right? Which is, of course, not social distancing, not doing these stay-at-home orders. And they say, oh, you know what? Georgia is doing great. That means aggressive lockdowns are not good. They don't help. And they actually hurt the economy because look what Georgia's doing, right? And it's almost like they're modeling after Sweden, which didn't do any of that stuff either. They didn't have a lockdown at all. And they saw their cases of coronavirus and their death counts explode. So that's not a winning model, and neither is Georgia. But instead of actually, saying that yes, what we're doing is going to kill more people and going to infect more people, instead Georgia has fudged the numbers. In fact, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, says that when scientists looked at this, they think, wait, hold on. This doesn't make any sense. What is Georgia doing that is, making sure that their numbers are flat, even though they're actually not doing anything to fight coronavirus? Well, it's because what they actually did is that they misinterpreted the data. Now, David Fahrenthold points out, state of Georgia made it look like its COVID cases were going down by putting the dates out of order on its chart. May 5th, followed by April 25th, then back to May again, in a way that made it look like a down slope. Oh. So now, in case you're thinking, this is liberal propaganda, what are you talking about? No, Kemp's office has had to apologize for putting out misleading charts showing a downward trend in coronavirus cases since they opened up. It didn't happen just once, not twice, but 3 times. Kemp's offices are like, oh, we put out bad, misleading data. Our bad. But it shows the downtrend. So now the thing about this is, as I mentioned before, right-wing media picks this up. They pick up the charts, they pick up the numbers, and they see the downtrend, and that's all they show, right? And they say, oh my God, look at Georgia miracle. They're crushing it. They don't need a lockdown. So all you states that are locked down right now, you guys don't need lockdowns either. And so let's open up the economy. The doctors were wrong again. Liberal propaganda. Let's get everybody back to work and, more importantly, off unemployment benefits. Now, the apology then comes out later, right? Because, if you don't apologize for this quote-unquote misleading graphic, oops, we made a mistake. We've accidentally released the numbers out of date. Oops. Well, guess what? Right-wing media doesn't pick that up. Nobody on the right talks about it. And therefore, people are left with the impression that whatever Georgia is doing, i.e. nothing to fight coronavirus, that somehow they're doing better than California or New York, right? Or Michigan, right? So that's the scam. That's the scam. Now, Jasmine Clark, this is State Representative Jasmine Clark, who is, by the way, has a degree in microbiology and molecular genetics. She's a PhD. She told the Journal-Constitution, quote, I have a hard time understanding how this happens without it being deliberate. Literally nowhere ever in any type of statistics would that be acceptable. And yet here we are, it is accepted because people are tired of being locked down. I understand that. People are hurting financially, and I understand that. That's why I believe in a $2,000 a month UBI stimulus. And there are plenty of different plans for that, as well as rent and mortgage freezes. Oh, I know. How are we going to pay for it, guys? How are we going to pay for it? Yeah, I know. It's How do we pay for the trillions of dollars we just handed Wall Street and the corporations? I mean, are you effing kidding me? Right? How are we going to pay for the military? Anyway, with that discussion aside, right, we should do that to alleviate the suffering, the economic suffering of people during a time where we should be at home. We should be quarantined. We should not be spreading this virus around, right? But yet, here we are with Republicans that are more interested in, helping their friends, their corporate friends, which is why they orchestrated the largest transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class through, taxes to the, richest corporations in these gigantic bailouts for these companies. So they did that. They helped their donors. And then when it comes to helping regular people, suddenly they've got no money for it. We got no money. What are we going to do? So here we are. Now, Georgia's not the only state that's messing around, right? And look, you F around, you're going to find out, right? Especially when there is a second wave or when there are thousands more people that are dying of coronavirus. And we've already started to see that in a lot of states. But see, Florida, they have a solution for that. Here's what they're doing. They're actually trying to stop county coroners from releasing death tallies from COVID-19. You die of COVID-19 in Florida, they'll hide your number. They'll hide you, right? You don't exist. You didn't die from COVID-19. You're off the books. You're scrubbed. Now, you don't do stuff like that unless you have something to hide. And they do. This is why the state of Florida also fired a woman named Rebecca Jones. Now, Rebecca Jones led a team of Florida Department of Health and data scientists and public health officers to set up a website which would allow researchers, reporters, and the public to access and review COVID-19 cases, testing, and death data. So now this was hailed as like great, wonderful transparency. I can't believe Florida would actually do something like that, which is why, of course, people in Florida, Republicans had to shut it down. And they fired her. In fact, she announced her firing on May 5th to WPEC TV. She said that she was removed because she was ordered to censor data, but had refused to manually change data to drum up support for the Republican plan to reopen. Here she was, a victim of political correctness. Look, that's what it is. This is political correctness. Data that comes out that goes against the political narrative from the Republican Party that it's safe to go out, right? So they're like, no, the data is correct, but we don't want you spreading that around because that hurts our political narrative. So we're politically correct. We're going to be politically correct by firing you and hiding the data, and we're going to hide the death data as well. And of course, in Georgia, they're being politically correct by fudging the numbers. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is. So, of course, with this political correctness, Republicans then decided to open up early. Georgia opened up early, South Carolina, and other states. And now, unsurprisingly, we are seeing more deaths and infections related to COVID-19. And their response, of course, was to hide it. And that's what that is. They're cooking the books to make sure that you don't know the truth because they want you to go out and risk your life, not their lives, but your life. The lives of you and your family members are of no consequence when it comes to their donors and their power and their money. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. It gets worse. Marco Rubio moment. Speaking of Florida. 2 months into the coronavirus pandemic, and you have companies that had previously pledged to pay their workers extra in hazard pay are now taking that away. Now, these are, of course, this affects essential workers. Now, these essential workers get paid usually very poorly, but since the lockdowns have been in place, have been taking all the risk. These are grocery store workers, people that are working to make sure that you're able to buy food at the store in order to feed your families. So now, the people in grocery stores, they're in close proximity to customers, and therefore they're taking the most risk. They're taking far more risks than, of course, the CEOs of these same companies. And as a result, for a while, they have been compensated by usually a small temporary increase in pay, known as, of course, hazard pay, which normally gets applied to the military. But in this case, it's the middle of a pandemic. And so, yeah, of course, hazard pay makes sense. Now, Kroger gave employees a couple of dollar increase in pay, what they call a hero's bonus, right? Or at least they did until May 16th, when that hero's bonus came to an end. And so now that's interesting because I didn't think that coronavirus was over. I mean, yes, a lot of people have gotten bored of it and they're like, we don't care about it anymore. It's over. Let's just go back to the beach. Well, coronavirus isn't over. It's still out there. It's still infecting people. It's still killing people. And so there's still a need to pay people who work in these grocery stores hazard pay. And look, you know me, I think that they should have a living wage, right? But the hazard pay is the very least that they could do. The very least that they can do. And still, that's not enough. So now Kroger ended their heroes bonus, right? And they're not the only one. Other companies, of course, that had put a temporary pay increase have decided to take it away. For example, Starbucks is planning to end their $3 an hour raise for workers at the end of May, according to the LA Times. So now, look, some of you might think, look, I get it. They can't afford to pay these workers. I mean, look how hard everybody's getting hit by coronavirus. I mean, you have 100,000 small businesses that have closed that are never going to come back as a result of coronavirus. Well, that's true. And those are small businesses. But you can't tell me Starbucks and Kroger are a small business. They're not. In fact, these are the stores that are killing it. I mean, a lot of these companies, Kroger, for example, saw a same-store sales increase of about 30% in March as customers stocked up on groceries. This is according to Winsight Grocery Business. And Kroger CEO Rodney McMullen, for himself, had received a 21% increase in compensation last year. His income is more than $14 million. Now, increases in profit, again, because there are more people are buying groceries because, well, you have a lot of sit-down restaurants that are closed. And a lot of these, unfortunately, small businesses. For example, there's a small business where I met my wife at, right? For our first date, Italian oven. That closed. That is no longer in business, and that makes me sad. I don't like that. That's one of the small businesses that closed, right? And so these businesses that were doing the heroes bonus, like Kroger, look, they're not sit-down restaurants like that. And the reason that restaurant closed down is because, well, you had debt obligations to the parent company, right? And that had nothing to do with the pandemic. But then the pandemic was like a 1-2 punch. The second punch was the fact that they couldn't adapt their business to doing only takeout or curbside, right? And so they were generating no revenue. They were in a lot of debt. And so they went out of business. And that sucks. And so that's happening to a lot of small businesses. But the difference is that Kroger is a grocery store and they can do all that stuff. They can adapt, and they've actually made a lot more money than they normally would because of how many people are stocking up on groceries and going to the grocery store now instead and cooking at home because they are home instead of doing order out, takeout, and delivery. And so, yeah, that's the problem here. Now, the essential workers in these stores, they're not seeing any of these benefit. No, they saw a temporary hazard pay boost, but then now it's basically gone. And they look, these people don't make living wage, right? These people make a minimum wage like $10 an hour. And we're not making a living wage even with that bonus. And now that's gone. It's just gone. And now Molly Kinders, a fellow at the Brookings Institute who studies hazard pay, she weighed in this. And she says, look, the reason that we gave them hazard pay is the fact that, they have significant risk. In fact, she says, many low-wage workers are not able to afford vehicles, meaning they risk exposure to the virus on public transit during their commutes to work. So, look, buses, those are buses, trains, those are enclosed spots, right? Where coronavirus can spread very easily, cramped, confined spaces with other people, right? So low-wage workers, they can't afford cars. They can't afford the insurance in some places. And so, look, they have to do public transportation in order to get to their jobs, the grocery store, which puts them at risk, which puts customers at risk, and they're not even getting paid more for it. They're just not. Millions of essential workers, as I pointed out, don't have health insurance. So if they get sick, well, guess what? They can't go to a doctor. Any illness, and I'm not just talking COVID-19, but any illness is potentially devastating for them and their families. She said this, quote, when your employer gives you low wages, those low wages make you less resilient to the disease. Yeah. This is all stuff that I talk about often because these are the problems facing workers. And now it's even worse than it was before. I mean, the system is rigged against workers. It needs to change. What we need is a Medicare for all system, and we need a living wage and not just temporary hazard pay. That said, there's not a lot that Congress is doing. Yes, Pramila Jayapal is doing the HEROES Act, right? Which would also extend that or actually codify some of that hazard pay into law while also ensuring that employees stay on their employers' payrolls, essentially. But look, we need more than just that. Again, I think we do need a UBI. We do need a Medicare for all system. We do need a living wage. We need all that stuff, right? Unfortunately, our politicians are so corrupt that these workers, they're going to get nothing. They're going to get none of that. Despite the risk that they take, the CEOs don't. And that's the other thing, right? So, oh no, the CEOs deserve all that compensation because they take all the risk, right? They take some financial risk, sure. But right now, especially, you have a lot of risk that is being borne by these workers that literally cannot afford to not go to work. It's disastrous. They do need a higher wage, and they do need that hazard pay until this is over. And unfortunately, a lot of companies are pulling that away, or they're giving a one-time bonus. Now, that one-time bonus, oh, that's nice, right? Oh, look, you get a $300 bonus like Walmart, right? $150 if you're a part-time worker, which is mostly, what their workforce is made up of, part-time workers. You get $150, and then that's it. But wait a minute. If this goes on for, say, 6 months or God forbid, even a year, right? Which it's certainly possible. Those people, I mean, that $150, it's nothing. It's nothing. But if you had given them, say, a $3 to $5 increase in their wages per hour, well, then that, of course, adds up. That adds up as hazard pay. And so they don't want to do that. No. The one-time bonus, because I think they do think it's going to last for a long time. So switch to the bonus. There you go. We can say we did something, and actually we end up saving more money. And that's it. That's what's going to happen. And so this, of course, leaves people at risk who are, back to getting paid very little money, right? $9 to $10 an hour if you're lucky, in a very dangerous environment. And what's even more frustrating, of course, is that money that's not enough. But these companies whose businesses are booming, now that people are not going out to eat, as I mentioned, they've been killing it. They've been killing it in sales. This is another example of disaster capitalism and how in America, even essential workers, quote unquote essential workers, just get treated like garbage. It's disgusting. All right. One more. And here's an update on Wisconsin. Wisconsin's primary election was notably a disaster, and yet it turns out that it's actually even worse than we had thought originally. So now, not only did voters end up getting infected with coronavirus, as well as poll workers, thanks to in-person voting, but it turns out that even with that horrible risk that people were told to make in order to, be able to cast their ballots, a lot of those ballots weren't even counted, thanks to what they're calling, quote unquote, technical glitches. Now, according to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, nearly 2,700 ballots in Milwaukee were not sent, and about 1,600 in the Fox Valley were not processed due to what they call glitches and mail problems. In Milwaukee, according to the paper, 2,693 voters were not sent absentee ballots after technical issues marred their production on March 22nd and March 23rd. This is according to a report by the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Only about half of those people who did not get their ballots eventually did vote, either with a replacement ballot or an absentee ballot at the polls. But of course, we all know the problems with absentee ballots not getting counted. A separate problem emerged when about 1,600 ballots for the Appleton and Oshkosh areas were located in a mail processing center for the day after the election. Yeah. It's not clear in the report if the ballots were on their way to the voters or on their way back to clerks when they were found. Either way, they were discovered too late to be counted. So, hey, you braved COVID. You went out there. You possibly gotten sick. You might have possibly brought back a virus to your family for them to get sick, but you voted. Oh, turned out your vote didn't even count. Oops. Technical glitches. Sorry. Sad day for you. Now, that's sad depending on no matter who you voted for, right, in the Wisconsin primary. So now, Tony Evers, he's the Democratic Wisconsin governor. Now, he actually tried to postpone the election, but they wouldn't let him. The Republican Supreme Court said, absolutely not. No way in hell. We're going to make those people go out and vote. And if they get coronavirus and die, well, we don't care. No, we're trying to win an election, which, by the way, they actually didn't win that court seat that they were trying to, win. And so what was the point of it? There was absolutely no point. Not only that, not only did the Republicans do this, and the Republicans were pushing for this, but you also had silence on the part of the DNC and even Joe Biden, who said, oh, it's completely safe. Go out and vote. Well, the whole reason for that is they wanted to put the final nail in the coffin when it came to Bernie Sanders' primary campaign. So, yes, that's definitely a part of it. But most of the fault, of course, goes to conservatives, right? So as a result, you had a shit show. This election should have never happened. More people were infected with coronavirus because they were forced to vote in person, and because they didn't have they didn't postpone, and they didn't have mail-in ballots. And to add insult to this injury, they weren't even counted. Many of them, thousands of them. So look, we need a national vote by mail system. We do. I would even ask for a do-over in Wisconsin. Why? Because that's an illegitimate election. Not that I think it would change the result for the primary. I'm not trying to relitigate the Democratic primary or anything like that. But I just believe that no matter who you voted for, you should have your vote counted. That's democracy. The big obstacle of that, of course, is Republicans. They don't believe in democracy. And at some point, centrist corporate Democrats also don't either. But the people that are against mail-in ballots are mainly Republicans, whereas at least the Democrats are pushing for this and try to, put it in the latest coronavirus relief bill, which is good. Republicans, look, Trump admitted it himself when he said, hey, look, if we do mail-in voting, Republicans would never win an election again. Oh, is that why? Is that because more people would vote? Yes, strange how democracy tends to be against conservatives, no matter what party they're in, right? So, but look, that's why the Supreme Court, the conservative Supreme Court of Wisconsin, voted this down because they wanted people to go out and get infected. Also, they could try to get a win. And I think that as a result, they get blood in their hands. Simple as that. They have blood in their hands. And I hope that voters remember later on and get rid of these terrible, terrible people. All right. Vote by mail does not invite fraud. The military does it, and they actually have very, very little fraud because there's a lot of oversight. So that's just that's propaganda. Complete and utter garbage. All right. And if you are, and if you're trying to spout that garbage, you're not an ignorant person. No, you're willfully spreading propaganda. So because you don't want people to vote because you're going to lose. And that's simple as that. So you're saying that I know your game. We all know your game. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please like and share this the stream. Please consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/T18Nation to support independent progressive media. Patron drive, trying to get to 400. Please help us out by signing up or sign up, of course, to become a channel member. All right, guys. Thank you. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you later.
Mike Pounds.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Please go out. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.